let's get into this breaking news. Now, obviously, this comes the way of Mag, who is one half of the Xbox, the Xbox show with Colt Eastwood each and every Monday. And obviously, Mag was a big part of primetime gaming for many, many years until he had to leave because of work. Well, he did a video this morning, ladies and gentlemen, which again, I'm not going to. I mean, I could use it. We talked, so it's not a problem. But what he does say in the video is that, and again, I wanted to kind of just follow his pace. He does confirm that the talks between PlayStation and Xbox are currently ongoing for their next game to come to Xbox Series consoles as of, earlier this morning, and that game is Returnal. Now, interestingly enough, you may want to, have some thoughts and theories as to why Returnal. Well, for a couple of reasons, and I did some digging into the actual sales of Returnal, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm here to tell you it's not good. As of this morning, I have it pulled here. It says Returnal has sold an estimated 866,000 copies on PlayStation 5. The PC version has sold 162,000 copies. Therefore, the total combined sales for both PS5 and PC are approximately 1,028,000 copies. Folks, I do have it confirmed that the studio did make a profit on the 1,028,000 sold. But that's not a lot of copies. Obviously, they do have a sequel that has already been announced, and it is coming. I don't think it's next year. I'm almost positive it's 2027. But I mean, this is the reason, folks. Like Returnal is a very difficult game. It is a bullet hell shooter in third person. I never bought it. I never played it. I know that a lot of people like Mag tried to platinum it, and it was unbelievably difficult. I think a game like that could exist on Xbox. I don't know if it sells more because it is a bit of a niche type of shooter, and it is incredibly difficult. So I don't know if it's a game that is going to blow up the charts. Like right now, depending on who you speak to, Helldivers 2, for a lot of reasons, is and has excited the fan base on Xbox. Now, is it because of Helldivers itself? I would say, yeah. I believe Helldivers 2 has a really cool draw to it. But I think when you combined the fact that it's going to incorporate ODST Helljumpers, well, that's a really big deal. That's a monster-sized crossover. So, of course, the masses are getting excited for it, and I'm one of them. I cannot wait for the game to play the game. And it's going to be a lot of fun, especially if, again, I really hope that this is one of those situations that you have in a team, people from PlayStation, people from PC, people from Xbox, and they're all just, there for Super Earth. And I really think you're going to get that. I think you're going to get some trolls, sure. There's going to be some team killing. There's going to be some shenanigans. But I think most people are really, really excited about Helldivers 2. But, of course, Crispy Bomb, we're talking about Returnal, and look, I don't think anybody in the chat nor on the panel has to be a mathematician to understand that Sony's change in philosophy or ideology, whatever word you want to use, regarding third party, regarding multi-plat, has to do with their failings with all of the gas games that they announced and had to cancel. Some were publicly announced, others were canceled behind the scenes. These are millions upon millions of dollars that are lost that they're just never going to be able to recover. And how they can recover is follow exactly what Xbox has been doing. And quite frankly, we've said this before, and we're going to continue to say it until it changes. Right now, Xbox games are literally blowing up the charts and eating PlayStation's lunch on their own store. And I'm sure that PlayStation wants to have that same conversation, or at least us have that same conversation in the podcast community. Are you surprised by the fact that both sides are talking, and the next game that could be coming over, Crispy Bomb, is Returnal?
I mean, kind of makes sense again, just like Helldivers did. You know, it's a shooter, it's single player. I mean, we get Doom in Game Pass. Maybe that's the route they go. You never know. I don't know if they want the PR from it, from the meltdowns that might happen, but I'm pretty sure the meltdowns are pretty much over. But you never know. You really don't. Not with social media. Um, logically, like barely creeping over 1 million for 2 platforms. If you made a profit, but how much margin did you make? Can you make a larger margin and sell? We'll just throw 250,000 copies on Xbox or something like that, just because of the type of game it is. It's possible. Could you take a bag and go into Game Pass? That's also possible. And I think you'd have a lot more people try it out, at least. It's one of those conundrums because what else are you going to do with it? There's no planned DLC or anything, right? I mean, what price point do you put it at? Do they put it at the same price they sold it at? Do they lower it? These are all things that, you have to consider. The percentages that, PlayStation would get on Xbox are pretty good. They're actually better than what Sony gives. So, I mean, realistically, it is a totally logical game to put on either way, shape or form. And also, give people a taste of, the challenge that is that game. I mean, I've heard stories and, from people that have even tried it, and it is not an easy game. So, it's kind of funny because we've talked about this. You know what I mean? It's just it's a little crazy that people just don't understand that maybe we kind of look at it a little different because we watch Xbox games just destroying on PlayStation, and immediately as I kept seeing the charts go up and up, I kept bringing up the Trojan horse status. Like it really, when they release it, a game and then an older game from Xbox goes on and it beats some of their games, it becomes a problem. It really does, because, especially if you have, they do have more casuals, they have more people in their ecosystem. And if you have more casuals that, play more of the other games, Madden and everything, and then you have them say, oh, wait, Forza looks like a really cool racing game, I'll grab that. But then you have a Death Stranding go in there and they're like, nah, we're good. So then all of a sudden you're selling more because you're getting some games in there that casuals would be interested in and say, hey, like I'll buy that too, and I think Sony's looking at it, and possibly maybe these Helldivers numbers might be really good, and they're like, okay, let's start thinking about the next one. And I think that's exactly what's happening right now.
I mean, you make a lot of sense, and you're not wrong. I really think that something like Helldivers, look, Sony has the numbers, right? They're well aware, Fuzzy, on how many people from Xbox have actually pre-ordered it. And interestingly enough, this is not really slander. This has been reported by several people. I talked about it on the social over the weekend. Interestingly enough, if you think that the console wars are still a thing, folks, not really. I think that they're dead. And why? Because right now, PlayStation is actually advertising to buy the Xbox version of Helldivers on their own store and webpage. That's it. Console war is over, ladies and gentlemen. Sony, listen. You're not going to hear me saying Sony waved the white flag. Sony is a corporation. They are a billion-dollar corporation that sees the trillion-dollar corporation in Microsoft making a lot of money on their own store, right? And I don't want to keep reiterating the point, but it has to, because some people are just dense like that. They don't get it. Okay. The idea of exclusives, even though it is still foreign to the OGs, is gone. It's just gone. Did Xbox do it faster than what PlayStation is doing? Absolutely. I think PlayStation is taking baby steps, no pun intended, which, by the way, that looks freaking awful, but fine, whatever. they are going to, I know a lot of people like saying, full slate, God of War, Uncharted, all maybe. I mean, there is a rumor, and again, I have this is completely unconfirmed, that Herman Holtz is pushing, like seriously pushing, to get Lego Horizon and Horizon Zero Dawn dropped onto Xbox. Now, that is unconfirmed. I'm trying to reach out to a couple of people that I do know that might have that information. As of right now, I cannot get it confirmed, but that makes perfect sense. Those are his babies, right? And he would love to see those games played by more players. And if they could sell 2, 3, 4 million copies between the both on Xbox, they would absolutely love it. Guess what, folks? I'm not a stan. I'd buy both games. I really would on Xbox, but I don't even think it twice. But Fuzzy, based on the Helldivers fever that has the community really excited, I think Sony looks at this. These decisions to port games are not made lightly. You saw in that business meeting from about a month and a half ago on how they are looking into the ports, and they are, of course, putting the community first. At least they say they are, in what ports they decide. So, we don't know. But Returnal, considering that it's sold not really great, this might be one. And again, I agree with Crispy. Do I think that Xbox player is going to buy a million copies of this game? I don't know, because I haven't played it. I know that it's very difficult. It is a niche. It is basically a bullet hell game that you would play from the OG 90s, right? Except you're playing in third person. That sounds pretty interesting to me. I just never was interested enough to buy it on PlayStation. But would I buy it on Xbox? Yeah, I kind of would. If the price was right, I would. What are your thoughts on to the new information that comes the way of MAG? Of course, one half of XNC with Colt Eastwood on Monday evenings. Do you think this is a reality? And do you think the two sides could actually work out a deal?
Yeah, I do. And, shout out to Mag. A lot of times, some of his predictions, while the gaming community may not like some of his predictions, but more times than often, they wind up coming to fruition. So I would say that there's probably there as far as that, that leak, as far as it coming over to Xbox and Nix's working on it. When we would, hypothetically talked about other like single player titles coming to Xbox and what would make sense, Returnal was one of the first ones I mentioned, primarily because it has co-op, and it's like that feature that they added to the game that the PlayStation player base just completely ignores. Co-op games seem to do very well on Xbox. Case in point, Helldivers 2. It's a co-op game. It's meant to be played with 4 players in the team. Hopefully no team kills, but the shenanigans that go on are what make that game a big draw. Now, it's a little bit different when it comes to Returnal. Think of Space Harrier mixed with Demon Souls kind of thing. That would be about the best way to look at it. Yes, it is a bullet hell, and it's a bit trickier traversing through that constantly changing map. It's like it's not going to be the same map that you played before you died the last time, or when you tried to go through that level, a playthrough ago. It's always going to be changing and adjusting based on how you play it or what doors you choose to go through. Having a second player to be able to do that in co-op fits nicely in the Xbox ecosystem. A lot of games, you'll have people in a party chat, teaming up, whether it's Battlefield, Call of Duty, or any other shooter. This one would probably do a bit better. Not saying it's going to outsell what it did on PlayStation, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did, just because of that co-op feature being a somewhat of a draw for the Xbox community. But it makes perfect sense to me. Like I said earlier, I got clipped for it because I also said, well, if they were to ever convert that to a games as a service, which, having something that's almost like a roguelike in regards to the different types of weapons, they could do the same type seasonal stuff that you see in games like The Division or even Diablo for that matter, and have it where it can be an ongoing game. I don't foresee the PlayStation player base continuing to play it. It seemed like a lot of people that fell off. Like by the time I bought it on PlayStation, I waited until it was on sale because I wasn't paying the full 70 for it, but waited until it was on sale. And by that point, when they added the co-op, everybody that wanted to play it already played it and didn't want to bother doing the co-op. So it's, I think it would do a bit better as far as from a co-op standpoint on Xbox. And, actually I'm looking forward to it, and we'll probably wind up purchasing it. Now, the key thing that I would like for to see Nixus do or PlayStation do in cases like this is make it where the thing could be co-op, where it's a cross-platform, where, a person on PC can play in the same instance as a person on PlayStation or a person on Xbox. I think ultimately, if PlayStation moves in that same direction, kind of like what Xbox is doing with Play Anywhere and such, and cross-play, I think this game would be a good bit more successful. It is a bit of a niche game, but shooters are shooters, and this is a fun one, although it can be frustrating, but having that extra help can definitely make it a little bit more of an enjoyable experience. But yeah, I totally see this one coming. And if I'm going to throw out a prediction next, would probably be Days Gone. That's another one that's sitting collecting dust that, they did a remaster, and they're probably got all the money that they're going to get out of it until they put it on Xbox. So we'll see.
That's a very interesting theory regarding what gets decided for a port, right? Like, I know that jokingly, a lot of people said full slate. I've even said it jokingly. Look, again, if you have a game, perfect example of Returnal, or more specifically, let's just bring Days Gone into the conversation. Now, I didn't actually know this. Crispy and I were talking in the green room, so I did a search, and I would have gotten this wrong. So I asked, what has been the total sales for Days Gone across PC and PS5? Folks, if you didn't know this, and I didn't, 9 million plus copies. That is a lot of copies for this game. Not that it wasn't a great game. It was phenomenal. But I didn't know that it had sold 9 million copies, which is a little bit surprising. Why even Crispy said it, they didn't get the second one or the sequel greenlit. Now, this is what for one instance that I did get clipped on, where I said that if it was released on Xbox, maybe Sony could use that as a testing poll, if you will, to whether or not to green light a sequel. Some people, well, just a second, Boom, why would they do that? Shut up. Because, of course, they have to check on the sales. And obviously, we know that if it sold 9 million copies between PC and PlayStation, those gamers actually would probably buy a sequel. But if they put it out on Xbox, and let's say, for instance, it sold 3 million. Let's say, for instance, it sold 5 million copies. Because, Xbox players like zombie games. A lot of people love State of Decay. This is kind of like State of Decay, just single player, right? It would work fine. Now, to Crispy and Fuzzy's point about sales, if a game like Returnal has sold everything it's going to sell, it was on PC, it sold minuscule. What do you do with a game like that? You port it, because you could probably, and he said it, could Xbox gamers buy as much as PlayStation gamers? Yeah, I guess, but it is a bit of a niche title, so there's no real chance, or you can't really put the rubber stamp on whether or not that's actually going to happen. But Days Gone, now that's a horse of a different color, or a pony of a different color, if you want to make a joke out of it. But I think that it would sell not only really well, but even though it sold 9 million copies across PC and across PS5, which is significant, I think it's hit a wall. No one's buying that game right now. But if it released on Xbox, again, that's something I could see some major sales for. I mean, I would buy it in a second. I wouldn't even think twice. But look, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see what happens. Again, if you watch Mag's video, and you should, it's 4 minutes, 22 seconds, not long. It's in the show notes. If you want to catch up on it, you can simply just click into the show notes and click the video if you want to give him a view. Obviously, his link, if you're not already following him on the socials, go ahead and do that. But yeah, I mean, this is being reported by numerous places, including Mag more specifically, who did a video this morning. and the two sides are talking to bring Returnal, and the studio that would be bringing Returnal over to series consoles would in fact be Nixxes.